movie too. This one could actually be a really cool comic book. That's only going to take a second to talk about because it's Noah Ark. It's Noah. A person could make a really cool Noah story, but I wrote it as a children's cartoon because I seen it as educational opportunity to make a cool, really cool comic character, because you can go off with Noah and the bad guys. You can go right off with the bad guys because you've got you've got fucking Satan himself, right? And the 200 fallen angels that came down with him. All of them are there, right? So you can go off with them and just go read the fucking books about them. You don't even have to make shit up. They were crazy powerful. And then they were able to breed with everything on earth. Not just wives of man, or the daughters of man, which is in the Bible. They also made all types of abominations, and they were able to breed with like fish and fucking all kinds of stuff. So you could have all kinds of like mermaids and good ones, bad ones, whatever you wanted, right? Because you get your character creation is limitless in a show like that. Before the flood, it's all animals could talk, so you can communicate with them all freely. So as far as getting them on the ark and stuff, no problem. Everything was a vegetarian except for the abominations. It was okay to eat. We were sacrificing meat. It was real sketchy back then. I don't really know, so I'm not gonna get into that too much. But everything was capable of being a vegetarian, and you can bet the animals selected for the ark were definitely vegetarians. And you could select those animals, all these like God selected animals, right when he selected Noah. At the same time, he could select a bunch of animals, 2 of every kind, and give the animals just a drive to want to go to Noah, and then to find each other as well. So if you had like the 2 wolves, but one of them was like in Africa and one of them was in northern Canada, and Noah was in wherever. What's it called? Israel. Then obviously the 2 wolves would want to meet each other. They'd have like a driven connection to each other and then a driven connection to Noah. Or vice versa, a driven connection to Noah first and then feel a connection to find each other. Or have it so that whatever was closer. But you could write that into the storyline very easily. I already did when I did my storyline. Making the flat earth with all the pyramids and no oceans. All green, huge trees, huge lizards like crocodiles and alligators and dinosaur size, you know what I mean? Because the oxygen level would be through the roof, so everything would be living longer. Lizards grow their entire life. An 800, 600, 700-year-old crocodile or iguana is going to be the size of this van, like an iguana would be, and the crocodile would be way bigger, in length. His main body would be the size of this van, and then he'd have a tail and a head, right? So, same as the iguana, they'd be huge, and that's where you get your dinosaurs and stuff, for the most part. Now, there was also other kinds, where like I said, the fallen angels were breeding with women, making Nephilim who could breed with cows, and even the fallen angels could breed with goats. I think Satan did. That's Baelphet. That's Satan's son, Baelphet, who he's most proud of, who's like the representative of Satanism, king right now, or whatever. He's just Satan's son, who most loved child, creation. See, the angels all thought they were creators. So they were making, so you're limitless because of that, right? You got 200 angels thinking that they're creator gods, going around and making abominations all over the earth. And then they find out about Noah and they got to go fight him and his sons and shit. But they got the power of God and whatever. And you could make, Noah was an old man when he got the message. I think he was 400 or something. So you could give him so much knowledge. He could be a fucking ninja wizard. No problem at all. For a joke, he could be. Same as his sons, right? They would all be apprenticed. And then they all had wives, and they could all have talents as well, right? In the story that I made, Shem's wife was the blacksmith's daughter, or whatever, and she played a huge part in the book because she was the blacksmith for Noah, and making all of his, not only the swords and stuff that he needed to defend the ark against whatever Satan was throwing at him, but also he could also she made like the nails, the fucking whatever the ship needed, a big center plate or something like that to make the bow, or what, like some big piece that she would. I had never got to the end of the book, but she was playing that integral part when coming into this character that she was going to be also a hero, right? So you had all the sons' wives, and Noah and his wife to all be heroes, right? So that's why I was saying a comic book, like there's a whole fucking franchise. Each one of them could have their own comic book, basically, line written about them. Some of them would be short and some of them would be long, but each of them would have at least a 3-book series about just to get their character, yet alone what you'd need for the whole thing, and then bringing it all together and coming out in the end and getting into the ark. And then at the end, I hate to give it away, but all the animals that came to the ark would actually be pregnant at this point when the ark was ready, and they would have had babies, rather, or laid eggs, and they'd all be presenting the baby and the egg to Noah, and then going out and fighting like the big final war, and they would all die. All the characters that you loved all through the book, all those animals that you fell in love with and all of that, every single one of them would die, but they're alive in their kids, and their kids would look just like them, and they would be represented in the boat still, little babies, right? And obviously, because you wouldn't take the big full-grown wolf in the fucking boat with you, or the big full-grown lion. You take a little cub, little baby, you feed them milk and shit for the first while. You're not feeding them any meat. All right, you feed them milk, and then you get them used to fucking eating like bread and wheat and whatever everybody else is eating in the boat, Or you bring extra chickens. That's all I would have done. You bring a lot of chickens. Everybody gets to eat chicken all the time and bread. And as the animals grew bigger to take up more space, the food supply grew smaller, taking up less space, giving the animals the space to take up. And you've got God's hand on the boat, so it's not like you're running out of food. You got no worries, right? If you wanted to, God would have grown a wheat field on the bow. You know what I mean? If you ran out of it, and you could actually do that as a storyline in one of the books at the end, where they ran out of food, and everybody was gonna starve or have to fucking eat each other, and they're all vegetarians, so that's not even a thought. And Noah go out to send a dove out one day, and the dove go out and come back and nothing. And then they go back down, sleep another night, go out in the morning, and the whole fucking top of the boat be a wheat field, 4 feet high, all grown and ready to pick. Maybe a fucking fig tree growing on the bow, which is the apple that Adam and Eve ate was actually a fig. I don't know why they changed it to an apple. Something to do with the plan of America. I believe that America was planned by the Illuminati, by the devil, when the Bible was translated. And that's why they took out certain books and certain information and changed the language in order to lead you a different way. And then changed the language because it was written in 1600. Most of the words in there mean totally different things now than what they meant then. You gotta get a dictionary out if you're going to read a book from back then, and then you got to get out a Greek dictionary, and then you got to get out a Hebrew dictionary, and try to get back to what they're actually talking about in the Bible. This is in the Bible. This is in the Bible, actually. This is the essence of marijuana. I forget how to pronounce it right now. Something botasm. It's a hyphenated word. They use it in their lamenting oil for the body. And I'm sure it was burned as incense and stuff as well. Sin. Whew. That's a good one. So yeah, anyways. That's the Noah book series in a nutshell. It gets a lot bigger and a lot better. And like I said, being animals talking, either you could do it so that all animals spoke, which is biblical, or you could do it so that the animals could speak to each other in a language that mankind couldn't understand. Or, the way I wrote it, was that the animals that God chose got the gift of language when they were chosen. But they could only communicate to each other and understand man, but man couldn't understand them. But they could easily figure out that those animals were gifted and special and speaking to each other by their actions and what they were doing and different things like that. But then I've learned so much biblically since I've wrote it that I had to revise a lot of things like that. Because I want it to be biblically accurate and biblically, which gets me to the, I call it a dry well, but it's actually called something else. But when you build very long, large wooden boats, to go over the sea, you put a column in the center of the boat that's like a hollow that water can get up into, like a hole in the boat. And obviously it's walled in, but at the top it's open into the top of the boat or whatever. So that when you go over a big wave, if the boat, it will take in a bunch of water and it'll sit lower into the wave so that it doesn't snap in two, right? Because if the wave's like this and the boat's going like this and it doesn't have that hole and it gets out like that, it could break. But when it's got that hole, it doesn't go out like that. It actually sinks into the wave a bit and rides it over. So not only would that have saved the ark from breaking or anything and made it physically possible to have a boat that size, but also that would have, when you went over a big wave like that and and that inner well filled with water and then sucked empty and then went back to level, would actually suck all the air out of the boat, and then fresh air would be replaced in there. So you'd actually, you'd love waves, big waves. You'd just be loving every second of a big wave. Number one, you got God's hand on the boat, or God's right in there. He shut the doors, right? So no worries about breaking or sinking or any of that stuff. You don't have to worry about the storm. It's like when Jesus was on the boat with the disciples, and he was like, come on guys, what are you waking me up for? You guys, you have such little faith. Calm down, storm. And the wind stops and he goes back to sleep. And but what he was saying there was that the disciples I don't know if he meant that they should have had faith that they weren't in danger, or if he meant they should have had enough faith to just tell the storm themselves. They didn't need to wake Jesus up to talk to the storm. You can talk to the wind. I can talk to the wind. I think that's what Jesus was saying myself, but I'm a crazy person. Maybe. Anyway, so that's that book, or book series, or comic book series, or even like a children's TV show, because you could introduce a new arc animal every week. You know, the wolf, the dog, the lion, the cat, the keep bringing animals in, and all the birds and stuff. And then you could also, like I said, introduce bad guys constantly. You could introduce bad guys, and you go off making them super cool and have, wizard powers and magic and all of that stuff. No problem. Knowledge was at a peak back then. You had the angels to ask about witchcraft right there beside you. You could still speak to them. But then when the pyramids got shut down, changes the frequency of the earth so that the angels can't intermingle with man anymore. Yeah, something like that. Though it seems like they need the frequency turned up in order to intermingle with us now. I'm not sure. But, anyway, let me know what you think. Noah's Ark book series.